Have you ever wondered if a place can literally be too beautiful for its own good? I mean, think about Ladakh. Can this absolutely breathtaking yet incredibly fragile high-altitude ecosystem actually withstand the intense mounting pressures of its very own booming tourism industry? It is a fascinating question, and honestly, it sits right at the heart of a massive unfolding crisis in the Himalayas.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into Ladakh's constitutional crossroads: ecology, economy, and governance. We're going to untangle the really complex web driving the current systemic unrest in the region. We need to look beyond just the daily headlines to truly grasp the deep-rooted friction between ecology, the economy, and constitutional governance. Because, understanding this delicate balance isn't just about one specific region. It's actually a super critical look at how modern democracies try to manage fragile frontiers in a rapidly changing world.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with a fragile tourism boom, then move to the 2019 governance shift, understanding the sixth schedule, core demands and alternatives, and finally, the path forward. Okay, Section 1. A fragile tourism boom, the physical reality. To really get what's happening politically, we first have to understand the land itself and the economy that's sustaining it right now. We are witnessing a massive shift in how Ladakh survives. For generations, traditional occupations, things like pastoralism, agriculture, and trade, well, they were the absolute lifeblood of the region. But those traditional paths are really struggling today. In fact, tourism reportedly makes up over 50% of Ladakh's monetary economy now. It brings in vital livelihoods, from homestays and trekking guides to restaurants and taxi services. It's this massive economic engine. But, as you might guess, it comes with a really heavy price. That economic engine is taking a severe ecological toll. We're seeing a huge boom in unregulated, non-climate-sensitive construction. Solid waste is burgeoning everywhere. But perhaps the absolute most alarming part is the extreme water scarcity. To put this into perspective, the local population historically uses about half the amount of water compared to the rest of India. So bringing in mass tourism places this acute, completely unsustainable demand on a critically scarce resource. And wildlife is taking a massive hit, too. New roads are opening up previously untouched areas, and tourists chasing after severely endangered species, like the black-necked cranes, just to get a good photograph, is causing real, tangible disturbance. Mass tourism has literally become an acute threat to the region's long-term survival. Which brings us to Section 2, the 2019 governance shift bureaucratic reality. So take a region that's already under immense ecological pressure and add a seismic shift in how it's actually governed. The entire structural governance of Ladakh changed overnight in August 2019. Before 2019, Ladakh was part of the Jammu and Kashmir state, and crucially, under the laws back then, outsiders were restricted from buying land or setting up businesses there. But post-2019, Ladakh became a distinct union territory. But here's the catch. It's a union territory without a legislature. That means it's governed directly by the central government via a lieutenant governor, rather than by locally elected representatives. Plus, land and businesses were suddenly opened up to outsiders. This massive shift sparked intense local fears regarding land security, cultural preservation, and the potential for unchecked commercial exploitation. The real friction point here is the financial reality of this new structure. According to local civil society groups, the total budget for the Union Territory is massive. We're talking cited figures around the 6,000 billion rupees mark. But the statutory hill councils, which are the actual local bodies representing Leh and Kargil, they're allocated just 500 crore rupees. You can see the disparity there, right? Locals are expressing deep frustration that appointed bureaucrats basically control the vast majority of the region's budget, leaving the elected hill councils with very little financial or administrative autonomy. Let's move to Section 3, understanding the sixth schedule, the constitutional shield. This overarching feeling of bureaucratic control, paired with their ecological vulnerability, brings us to the core mechanism locals are demanding to protect their home. The foundation of their argument is completely demographic. A whopping 97% of Ladakh's population belongs to scheduled tribes. Because the region is overwhelmingly tribal, local civil bodies are strongly arguing that they qualify for specific constitutional protections designed specifically for tribal populations in India. So what exactly is this protection? It's called the Sixth Schedule, found under Article 244(2) of the Indian Constitution. Think of it as a constitutional shield. Originally, this was applied to tribal areas in northeast India, places like Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. What it does is provide autonomous governance through what are called autonomous district councils, or ADCs. The entire objective here is to protect tribal identity, land, and customs by ensuring decentralized grassroots self-governance. The reason the sixth schedule is so highly sought after by Ladakhis is because it offers real, tangible power, legislative, judicial, and financial. Under an autonomous district council, locals would have the legislative power to make their own laws regarding land, forests, and customs, though they would still need the governor's assent. They'd have judicial powers to actually establish village courts for customary disputes. And, crucially, they would have the financial power to levy specific local taxes and collect land revenue. In short, it would grant the local population the exact autonomy they feel is missing right now under the UT bureaucracy. All right, Section 4, Core Demands and Alternatives. The standoff. With stakes this high, you've got some incredibly intense negotiations happening right now between Ladakhi civil organizations and the central government in New Delhi. The local movement is spearheaded by two major coalitions, the Leh Apex Body and the Kargil Democratic Alliance, and they've united around a very firm, concrete four-point agenda. Number 1, full statehood for Ladakh to guarantee a democratically elected legislature. Number 2, the implementation of that sixth schedule we just talked about. Number 3, separate Lok Sabha seats for the Leh and Kargil districts to make sure they have distinct national representation. And number 4, strict job reservations for locals, especially given how limited government employment opportunities are in the region. But the central government is pretty hesitant to just grant the sixth schedule outside of the Northeast, citing all sorts of administrative and political complexities. Instead, the Ministry of Home Affairs is pitching some alternatives. While the locals want full statehood and the sixth schedule, the center is proposing up to 85% job reservations, a 15-year domicile rule, and safeguards that are kind of similar to Article 371, which provides special provisions to certain states. They're also suggesting they could just strengthen the existing Hill councils with more administrative and financial powers, rather than totally replacing them with new sixth schedule ADCs. It is a classic, high-stakes constitutional negotiation, trying to balance local autonomy with centralized administration. And finally, Section 5, the path forward, ongoing negotiations. So, where do these incredibly complex bureaucratic talks stand today? Well, you know what's fascinating? High-level negotiations often stall on the absolute most specific details. During recent meetings between the Ministry of Home Affairs and Ladakh bodies, a major sticking point emerged around bureaucratic accountability. Specifically, local leaders are demanding control over the annual performance appraisal reports, or APRs, of officers. They want to be absolutely sure that if a self-governing structure is put in place, the elected local government actually has the power to supervise and appraise the bureaucrats assigned to them. Without that leverage, they argue, true autonomy is just an illusion. Which really leaves us with this final, critical thought to ponder. We are watching a fragile region try to thread an almost impossible needle. They are completely caught between the vital economic lifeline of a tourism boom, the dire ecological threat that very same boom brings, and a really desperate fight for democratic representation. So what happens next? Will Ladakh secure the sixth schedule as its constitutional shield, or are we going to see a newly engineered compromise fundamentally shape the future of this high-altitude desert? It's an incredibly delicate balancing act of ecology, economy, and democracy, and honestly, the whole world should be paying attention.